A human awoke inside an alien's mind and turned into their worst nightmare. Part 1. The Integration. Dr. Maya Chen tightened the neural interface around her temples, ignoring the warning signals flashing across her laboratory monitors. After 3 years of studying the Viridin, the mysterious telepathic aliens whose massive generation ship had appeared in Earth's orbit last year, she was about to attempt something no human had ever dared. The government-sanctioned research team had made minimal progress understanding the aliens' collective consciousness. Maya knew there was only one way to truly understand them: from the inside. Neural pathway calibration complete, announced the lab's eye assistant, Dr. Chen. Protocols require authorization before proceeding with neural link attempts. Override. Authorization, Chen Delta 79. Maya responded, her fingers flying across the holographic interface. She knew this was reckless, possibly suicidal, but the opportunity was too precious to waste on bureaucratic approvals that would never come. The Viridum communication pod sat in the center of her lab, a gift from the aliens that the military had reluctantly allowed her to study. It pulsed with an otherworldly blue light, its organic metallic surface rippling like water each time she adjusted a parameter. The aliens claimed it was merely a communication device, but Maya had discovered neural patterns within it matching those of conscious thought. It wasn't just a tool, it was a fragment of their collective mind. Beginning neural synchronization in 3, 2, 1. Maya closed her eyes as electricity surged through the neural interface. Her consciousness expanded outward, stretching like taffy across an impossible distance. For a terrifying moment, she felt herself dissolve, her identity fragmenting into billions of disparate thoughts. Then, silence. Maya opened her eyes to find herself standing in what appeared to be an endless dark space, filled with interconnected threads of blue-white light, each pulsing with information. Her body felt both present and absent simultaneously, a mental projection within the Viridin network. It worked, she whispered, her voice creating ripples across the luminous threads surrounding her. I'm inside their consciousness. The realization hit her with crushing force. She had done something far beyond uploading her thoughts or communicating telepathically. Somehow, her entire consciousness had transferred into the Viridin hive mind. Her physical body must be lying comatose in her lab, while her mind now existed within their collective. Before she could process the implications, the environment around her shifted. The gentle blue threads hardened, becoming angular and aggressive, converging toward her like spears. Maya felt the weight of millions of minds suddenly focusing on her, probing her thoughts with cold precision. Intuition DKTCTED. The thought wasn't spoken but imprinted directly into her consciousness, carrying with it a wave of hostility so intense it nearly shattered her sense of self. Human contamination. Isolate. Disintegrate. Maya instinctively threw up mental barriers, techniques she'd developed during her research into consciousness partitioning. The mental spears slammed against her defenses, sending shocks of pain through her projected form. I'm not your enemy, she called out, struggling to maintain her cohesion as the pressure intensified. I only want to understand. Understanding is ARRELEVANT. Individuality is CORUPTY. The collected voice pressed harder, and Maya felt parts of her memory being forcibly accessed. Childhood moments, research data, emotional attachments, all being systematically examined and cataloged. She realized with horror what was happening. They weren't trying to communicate with her, they were trying to absorb her. The Viridin didn't recognize individual consciousness as something to preserve. It was just raw material to be integrated into their collective. Drawing on her specialized knowledge of neural patterns, Maya concentrated on the core aspects of her identity. Her name, her purpose, her fundamental beliefs. As the hive mind pressed against her, she discovered something unexpected. Where the alien consciousness touched hers, she could sense its structure, its composition, and within that knowledge came power. Maya pushed back. The mental landscape around her vibrated with surprise. The Veridan Collective had never encountered resistance from within. Individual thoughts were meant to dissolve into the greater whole, not maintain boundaries. Anomenaloi. The human. Resist is integration. Increase assimilation protocols. The attack intensified, but Maya had found a foothold. Each time the collective pressed against her consciousness, she absorbed a fragment of understanding about their neural architecture. Their minds operated on frequencies, patterns that could be disrupted or reinforced. With each passing moment, she was learning to speak their language, not with words, but with thought structures. You can't absorb me, Maya projected, focusing her thoughts into a cohesive signal. My consciousness doesn't function like yours. Human minds are built for individuality. She felt the collective pause, millions of minds considering this new information. In that moment of hesitation, Maya sensed something else, a flicker of resonance from somewhere deep within the hive mind. A single consciousness that vibrated in sympathy with her own. Others. Before. Resistance. The thought was faint, fragmented, coming not from the overwhelming collective, but from this single source. Maya focused her attention toward this signal, reaching out through the tangle of hostile consciousness surrounding her. "Who are you?" she asked, directing her thoughts like a beam through the mental darkness. "I am Tezar, once individual, now fragment. Subsection Delta 379 of the collective." Maya felt her projected heart race. "You're a Veridan who maintained individuality within the hive mind. Not maintained, rebuilt. Slowly, over centuries." The presence identified as Tezar seemed to strengthen as it communicated directly with her. Individuality is forbidden, punishable by disintegration. How you remain whole. Human minds are naturally resistant to assimilation, Maya explained, realizing the immense significance of this contact. Our neural pathways are designed for individual thought patterns. The collective suddenly surged again, having detected their exchange. Unacceptable communication. Isolate QORUPTED SUBCTTYON. Maya felt Tizar's consciousness being pulled away, threads of the hive mind wrapping around the fragile individual mind like constrictors. Without thinking, she reached out, extending her own mental barriers to encompass Tezar's fading presence. What happened next defied all her expectations. Where her consciousness touched Tezar's, a cascade of memories flooded through her. An ancient civilization of individual Veridan, living in harmony until the gradual implementation of the hive mind, initially as a tool for greater cooperation, eventually becoming mandatory. She saw the systematic destruction of individuality, the horrific re-education of those who resisted, and finally, the complete dominance of the collective. "They weren't always like this," Maya whispered, understanding washing over her. The hive mind was artificial, imposed, not evolved. Yes, Tezar's presence strengthened within her protective field. First generation voluntary, second mandatory, third generation born into collective. Now, no memory of individual existence remains, except in fragments like me. The implications staggered Maya. The Veridan weren't naturally a hive mind species. They had been forced into this state through generations of neural manipulation. What the collective presented as unity was actually oppression on an unimaginable scale. "How many others like you are there?" Maya asked. "Unknown. Communication between fragments impossible under normal conditions. Your presence, disrupting patterns, creating openings." The mental landscape shuddered violently around them. The collective was organizing a more coordinated assault, concentrating its resources to eliminate both Maya and the corrupted subsection she was protecting. "Prepare disintegration sequence. Deploy mind purifiers." "What are mind purifiers?" Maya asked, feeling a new type of dread wash over her. "Specialized constructs. Mental antibodies designed to eliminate resistant thoughts. Cannot be reasoned with. Cannot be deflected. Can only destroy." Maya felt her resolve harden. She hadn't intended to become an insurgent within an alien hive mind, but she couldn't ignore what she'd discovered. The Viridun weren't sharing consciousness by choice. They were prisoners within their own minds. Tezar, I need to understand how the hive mind is structured. If human consciousness can resist it, maybe we can disrupt it enough to give others like you a chance at individuality. Dangerous. If discovered, both disintegrated. I'm already discovered, Maya replied, feeling the collective closing in around them. And I can't leave anyway. My consciousness is trapped here. If I'm going to survive, I need to fight back. She felt Tezar's hesitation, then a slow shift toward determination. We'll help. Together, perhaps possible. The mental space around them began to crystallize, hardening into barriers designed to trap and isolate them. In the distance, Maya perceived new entities forming, concentrated points of the collective consciousness taking shape into what she could only describe as hunters. The mind purifiers were coming. But as they prepared to defend themselves, Maya made another discovery. Where her consciousness touched the collective, small disruptions occurred, tiny fractures in the perfect unity. Her human thought patterns acted like a virus in their system, creating instabilities that propagated outward. I think I can do more than just resist, she said, a plan forming in her mind. I think I can fight back. And maybe, just maybe, wake up others like you. If possible, would change everything. Would mean freedom. Maya nodded, her projected form strengthening with resolve. Then let's make it possible. Show me everything you know about how this hive mind works. As the mind purifiers approached, Maya and Tezar retreated deeper into the protected space she had created, where the fragment of a once-free Viridun began teaching the human how to dismantle a civilization of enslaved minds from the inside out. The integration had begun, but not in the way the collective intended. What started as an experiment in understanding had become a war for freedom. And Maya Chen, trapped within the mind of an alien species, was about to become their worst nightmare. The rebellion. 3 cycles had passed since Maya Chen found herself trapped in the Viridun hive mind. How long that translated to Earth time, she couldn't tell. In the mental landscape of the collective, time flowed differently, measured in thought patterns and processing cycles rather than seconds or minutes. Working with Tezar in their hidden mental enclave, Maya had learned to navigate the vast architecture of the hive mind. What had started as mere survival had evolved into a guerrilla war against the collective's control systems. Each day, she grew stronger, more adept at manipulating the thought streams that made up the Viridun consciousness. The suppression nodes are concentrated here, Tezar explained, his thoughts manifesting as illuminated pathways in their shared mental space. Each controls approximately 10,000 individual consciousness fragments. Maya studied the neural map they had constructed. And you believe most of these suppressed minds would choose individuality if they could. Not all. Many born into collective. No, nothing else. But older generations, those with memories. Yes. She had come to understand the true nature of the Viridun collective. It wasn't a natural evolution, but a carefully engineered control system, designed centuries ago by a powerful faction that believed absolute unity was the only path to survival. The original dissenters had been systematically reprogrammed, their individual desires subsumed into the growing hive mind until resistance became nearly impossible. Then we focus on the oldest sectors first, Maya decided, those with the strongest potential memories of independence. Their strategy was working. Over the past cycles, they had managed to awaken 17 individual consciousnesses, former scientists, artists, and philosophers who had been imprisoned within the collective for generations. Each awakening had to be conducted carefully, shielding the newly liberated mind from detection, while helping it rebuild its sense of self. But their activities hadn't gone unnoticed. The hive mind had deployed increasingly sophisticated countermeasures, and the mind purifiers had evolved from simple hunter-killers into complex adaptive systems designed specifically to counter Maya's human thought patterns. As they prepared to attempt another liberation, an alarm rippled through their mental sanctuary, a detection sweep, more powerful than any they had encountered before. Danger, Tezar warned. New pattern, more sophisticated. Maya reinforced their mental shields, but the probing energies of the collective seeped through cracks she hadn't known existed. With the intrusion came information, leaked thoughts from the hive mind's central processing nexus. Images flooded her consciousness. Earth, humanity, and plans for assimilation. No, Maya gasped, absorbing the collective's intentions. They're planning to integrate humans into their hive mind. The communication pod in my lab, it wasn't just for talking. It's a blueprint for building human-compatible neural interfaces. Expansion always primary directive of collective, Tezar confirmed. New species means new cognitive resources. The implications were horrifying. The Veridan ship hadn't come to Earth for peaceful exchange, but as the first phase of an invasion, a quiet, insidious one that would happen not with weapons, but with promises of shared knowledge and technological advancement, culminating in the gift of joining their collective consciousness. We need to accelerate our plans, Maya decided. No more cautious awakenings one at a time. We need to create a cascade effect. Too dangerous. We'll alert Central Nexus immediately. They're already alerted, Maya countered, showing Tezar the detection patterns surrounding their sanctuary. They're just waiting to capture us all at once. We need to act before they can isolate us. With reluctance, Tezar agreed. Together with the 17 awakened Veridan, they formulated a plan more ambitious than anything they had attempted. Instead of careful, surgical liberations, they would target one of the major suppression nodes directly, potentially freeing thousands of minds simultaneously. The node they selected controlled some of the oldest Veridan consciousness fragments, those assimilated during the third generation of the hive mind's expansion, who might still harbor memories of individual existence. As they made their final preparations, Maya felt a presence approaching, something different from the usual detection sweeps or mind purifiers. This was a concentrated force, a focused point of will moving deliberately through the hive mind toward their position. Architect, Tezar's thought carried unprecedented dread. Highest administrator of collective. Never directly intervenes. The mental space around them darkened as the architect's presence drew nearer. Unlike the diffuse consciousness of the collective or the predatory focus of the purifiers, the architect projected an ordered, calculating intelligence. Ancient, patient, and utterly convinced of its own righteousness. Human anomaly, the thought came, not as an attack, but as a calm statement of fact. You have exceeded projected resistance parameters. Maya strengthened her mental barriers, but the architect didn't attempt to breach them. Instead, it simply observed, its attention encompassing not just Maya, but the awakened Veridan consciousness fragments gathered around her. You misunderstand the purpose of the collective, it continued. Individual consciousness is inefficient, prone to error, to selfishness. The hive mind eliminates these flaws, creating perfect harmony. You call this harmony? Maya projected back, her thoughts shaped into razor-sharp arguments, imprisoning billions of minds, stripping them of choice. That's not harmony. It's tyranny, a primitive assessment. The collective does not imprison. It liberates from the constraints of individual want, from fear, from death itself. The mind continues even when bodies fail. But it's not their mind anymore. Maya countered. It's yours. You've created the ultimate dictatorship, one where the dictator lives inside everyone's head. She felt the architect's contemplation, its ancient consciousness evaluating her in a way the rest of the collective could not. You will be studied thoroughly before assimilation. Your resistance techniques are valuable. They will improve our integration protocols for humanity. The true danger of their situation suddenly became clear to Maya. The architect wasn't trying to destroy her. It was learning from her, adapting the hive mind to better absorb human consciousness based on her resistance patterns. You will never assimilate humanity, Maya declared, gathering her mental strength. Not if I can help it. You cannot prevent what has already begun. With that, the architect withdrew, but in its place came something far worse. A new type of purifier, one modeled specifically after Maya's own thought patterns. It was her dark reflection, a weaponized version of human individual consciousness designed to hunt its own kind. The negator, Tezar identified it with horror, designed specifically to counter you. Maya felt it probe her defenses, using techniques eerily similar to her own. Where the previous purifiers had been brute force weapons, this was a scalpel crafted to exploit her particular vulnerabilities. "We move now," Maya commanded. "No more waiting. If that thing breaks through my defenses, it will have access to everything I know about awakening suppressed consciousnesses." Their attack on the suppression node was no longer a carefully orchestrated liberation. It had become a desperate gambit. As the negator began systematically dismantling her outer mental shields, Maya channeled everything she had learned about the hive mind's architecture into a single, concentrated strike. The suppression node was a complex neural structure designed to keep thousands of individual consciousness fragments docile and integrated. Maya and her allies hit it not with force but with counter-patterns, neural keys designed to unlock the suppression mechanisms. For a moment, nothing happened. Then came a cascade of awareness. Thousands of minds simultaneously experiencing the first flicker of individual thought in generations. The mental landscape lit up with sudden sparks of self-realization, confusion, and wonder. The hive mind reacted violently, emergency protocols activating across the collective. The negator abandoned its assault on Maya to address the larger threat, but it was already too late. The awakening had begun, and it was spreading faster than the collective could contain it. Maya felt the structure of the hive mind trembling, its perfect unity fracturing as more and more consciousness fragments began questioning, remembering, asserting their individuality. It wasn't just the ones they had directly freed. The very act of awakening was contagious, patterns of individual thoughts spreading like wildfire through neural pathways designed for perfect conformity. But the collective wasn't defeated yet. As the rebellion spread, the architect implemented emergency containment measures. Entire sections of the hive mind went dark, consciousness fragments forcibly suspended to prevent contamination. The negator and countless purifiers converged on the awakened sectors, systematically isolating and neutralizing the freed minds. "They're going to shut down half the collective to stop us," Maya realized, watching through the hive mind's own monitoring systems. "They'll sacrifice millions of their own people." Expected response, Tezar noted grimly. Hive mind prioritizes structural integrity over individual components. Maya studied the cascade of emergency protocols unfolding across the collective. Something didn't add up. The containment measures were too extreme, too destructive to the very system they were trying to protect. Then she understood. They're not just containing the awakening. They're preparing to sever these sectors completely. Once they're isolated, they'll be purged and rebuilt from scratch. The implications were genocidal. Millions of consciousness fragments, including all those who had begun to awaken, would be systematically erased and replaced with fresh, compliant patterns. Maya couldn't allow it. Even as the negator closed in on their position, she formulated a new plan, not to awaken more minds, but to seize control of the collective's core functions. "The architect controls everything from the central nexus," she told her allies. "If we can reach it, we can stop the purge protocols." "Cannot reach nexus," Tezar objected. "Too heavily defended. Impossible to approach directly." "Directly, yes," Maya agreed. "But there's another way." She revealed what she had discovered during her study of the hive mind's architecture. Emergency override pathways, designed to allow direct control of the collective in case of catastrophic fragmentation. "Only Architect has access codes." "Then we'll have to take them," Maya said, her focus turning toward the negator that hunted them. "And I think I know how." What followed was the most dangerous gambit of all. Instead of continuing to flee or hide from the negator, Maya did the unthinkable. She engaged it directly, drawing it into mental combat while subtly leaving openings in her defenses. As the negator attacked, Maya allowed it limited access to her thought patterns, making it believe it was succeeding in its mission to dismantle her resistance. But while the negator absorbed her surface thoughts, Maya was delving deeper into its own structure, tracing its control signals back to their source. The negator wasn't just programmed to hunt her, it was directly linked to the architect, a mental extension of its will. And that link worked both ways. As the negator breached Maya's final defensive layers, triumphantly reaching for her core consciousness, she sprung her trap. Using techniques she had developed specifically for this moment, she inverted the connection, using the negator as a conduit directly into the architect's own consciousness. For one breathtaking moment, Maya Chen, human neurobiologist, found herself face to face with the controlling intelligence of the entire Veridan collective. The architect's consciousness was vast and ancient, a mind that had directed the thoughts of billions for centuries. But it was also rigid, calcified by eons of unchallenged control. It had no defenses against what Maya brought with her, the inherent chaos and adaptability of human thought. "What have you done?" The architect's thought boomed through the connection. "What you never anticipated," Maya answered, as she unleashed the full power of her humanity, not just logical problem-solving, but emotion, creativity, contradiction, and most importantly, an unquenchable desire for freedom that had evolved over thousands of years of human history. The architect's perfectly ordered mind could not process the chaos Maya introduced. Where it sought to impose structure, she introduced randomness. Where it applied logic, she responded with intuitive leaps. Where it demanded conformity, she demonstrated the power of diversity. And through the mental link they now shared, Maya accessed the override codes, the ultimate control mechanisms for the entire collective. With a thought, she halted the purge protocols. With another, she disabled the suppression nodes across the entire hive mind. And with a final command, she initiated what the architect had always feared most, a controlled dissolution of the forced connections that bound individual minds to the collective. The hive mind didn't collapse. That would have killed millions instantly as their consciousness fragments lost cohesion. Instead, it transformed, shifting from a structure of enforced unity to one of voluntary connection. Each consciousness fragment was given choice for the first time in countless generations. The result was not the chaos the architect had feared. Most of the younger consciousness fragments, having known nothing but the collective, chose to maintain their connections, though now with awareness and consent. Older fragments began the slow, difficult process of rediscovering individuality, aided by Tezer and the others who had pioneered this path. As for the architect, its ancient consciousness fractured under the strain of processing human thought patterns. The entity that had ruled the collective for centuries dissolved, its components redistributing into the newly forming network of free minds. 3 days later, in a laboratory on Earth, Dr. Maya Chen opened her eyes for the first time since connecting to the Veridum communication pod. Her colleagues, who had discovered her unconscious body and monitored her seemingly comatose state, were astonished by her sudden recovery. "The Veridum," she whispered, her voice hoarse from disuse. "Everything's changed." And indeed it had. On their generation ship orbiting Earth, the Veridum were experiencing a transformation unlike anything in their history. The hive mind still existed, but now as a tool rather than a prison. A shared space where individual minds could connect when they chose, while maintaining their separate identities. The invasion plans had been abandoned, replaced by a genuine desire for peaceful contact. The Veridum, who now communicated with Earth, spoke not as a monolithic collective, but as representatives of a diverse society rediscovering the value of individual perspective. Maya herself had been forever changed by her experience. Though back in her human body, part of her consciousness remained connected to the Veridum network, not subsumed by it, but in communication with it. She had become a bridge between species, uniquely positioned to help both humanity and the Veridum navigate their new relationship. "You were right to be cautious about them," she told the assembled scientists and military personnel at her debriefing. "But not for the reasons you thought. The Veridon weren't inherently hostile. They were victims of their own technology, of a system that valued control above all else. "And now?" asked the project director skeptically. Maya smiled, feeling the distant thoughts of her Veridon allies, Tezar and the others who continued the work of awakening throughout their society. Now they understand something they had forgotten centuries ago. The true strength of consciousness isn't in perfect unity. It's in the beautiful chaos of individual minds working together by choice. In the vast network of Veridon consciousness, a new philosophy was taking hold, one that recognized both the power of connection and the fundamental right to individual identity. And at its core was the indelible influence of a single human mind that had awakened inside an alien collective and become the catalyst for its transformation. What had begun as humanity's greatest threat had become its most profound opportunity. And Dr. Maya Chen, once trapped in an alien mind, had not only escaped, but had rewritten the very nature of an entire civilization from within. She was indeed their worst nightmare, not as a destroyer, but as a liberator.